Want to know why? Ask how. Howard the Humongous. We have an enormous problem. Donald Trump is delegitimizing our democracy and laying the groundwork for totalitarianism. How? He is delegitimizing the Democratic Party. Donald Trump is convincing his followers that Democrats are all extremists and closet communists out to destroy America and to steal your freedoms. And Donald Trump has help. He has help from figures like Laura Ingraham and Sean Hannity on Fox TV. And he has help from anonymous sources, like the ones who made an expensive, high-quality video called COVID 911 Insurgency, a video that says that the upcoming 2020 election is not really an election at all. It is an outright war. The COVID 911 Insurgency video treats Donald Trump as a patriot out to save America. To save America from what? From what the video calls a cruel and merciless enemy who threatens us more than all the bombs in the world, motivated by pure greed and inconceivable cruelty. According to this pro-Trump video, the enemy, quote, has been silently reversing all that is good for so long that we were lulled into a state of self-destructive compliance while they tore us apart and robbed us blind. The video claims that this enemy manufactured, quote, the biggest hoax in history, COVID-19. With millions of dollars from Barack Obama, these enemies of humanity created the coronavirus at a lab in Wuhan, China, according to this video. The Wuhan Institute of Virology claims the research carried out there was to provide the agent for a global biological attack on a scale never seen before, one that would be timed for release within an election year. But that's not the only epidemic this so-called globalist criminal corruption network has supposedly manufactured. Claims the video they flooded our streets with deadly drugs to manufacture a devastating epidemic of addiction and mass incarceration, while their completely controlled mainstream media assets kept us distracted from our one true enemy. And now, claims the COVID 911 Insurgency video, the 2020 elections are like nothing we've ever seen. COVID-19 is being sold as a natural event. It is an attempt by enemies of humanity to hold on to power. After November, they stand to lose it all, but they will do everything in their power to keep the crisis alive and to keep the people in fear. In other words, the COVID 911 pro-Trump insurgency video claims that the election of 2020 is not really an election. It is a war. And all of us who believe in America's values must rise up and make war against this enemy of humanity. And who is humanity's enemy according to this video? Who is sucking the blood from our civilization and leaving us out to rot? The deep state. And who is the deep state? The Democratic Party. What is the only way to purify this nation according to the video? The video implies that the only solution is to give the patriots led by Donald Trump total control. In other words, the video implies that the only solution is to turn this into a one-party nation. The COVID 911 insurgency video has had more than 8 million views, but no one seems to know who made it, and no one seems to be asking the question, are its makers even Americans, or are they Russians or Chinese? Are they foreign enemies trying to destabilize America's democracy and to rob it of its strength as a competitor for influence on the global stage? But the COVID 911 insurgency video is just one in a flood of sources saturating the internet with notions that America is not approaching an election in 2020, it is approaching a war. Or as the COVID 911 insurgency video put it, America is confronting a, quote, coordinated, irregular warfare insurgency, close quote. Biggest among these additional currents of conspiracy think is the movement QAnon. What is QAnon? In the words of CNBC, it's a right-wing conspiracy theory that centers on the belief that an anonymous tipster is revealing how Donald Trump is leading a secret war against a deep state. But those words don't capture QAnon's loopy side, not to mention its scary side. QAnon's imaginary deep state is more than you might imagine. It's a, quote, collection of political, business, and Hollywood elites who worship Satan, close quote, and sexually abuse, murder, and eat children. Sounds outlandish, right? But when Twitter decided to ban some QAnon accounts and not allow others in its recommendations or trend sections, the number of QAnon-related accounts it had the limit was 150,000. That's a lot of accounts. And when QAnon believers decided to attack John Legend's mate and the mother of Legend's kids, model Chrissy Teigen, Teigen had to block over 1 million people on Twitter. That's right, over 1 million people. As she put it, her notifications were flooded with sick psychopaths, and she was worried for the safety of her family. Why did QAnon attack Teigen? They claimed that she flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane. They claimed that she is a pedophile. And they claimed that she is a part of a vast pedophile conspiracy run by high-placed Democratic Party figures like Hillary Clinton. Teigen swears that she never met Epstein in her life. But QAnon connects her to its massive, deep state, satanic cult out to take over America and to rule the world. What does QAnon have to do with Donald Trump? Trump has retweeted QAnon messages 200 times. QAnon is virulently pro-Trump. QAnon believes that Donald Trump is a crusader and a savior of not just the country, but a savior of humankind. And what does QAnon have to do with Donald Trump's attempt to delegitimize the Democratic Party? According to QAnon, and according to many Trump followers, the deep state's satanic cultists, child rapists, and child eaters are, to repeat, Democrats. They are liberals. These living demons control the Democratic Party. They are the Democratic Party. Like the makers of the COVID 911 insurrection video, Donald Trump himself has called the coronavirus a hoax designed to keep him from winning the election. How would this hoax topple Trump? By imposing lockdown after lockdown, thus tanking the soaring American economy, the economy whose rise was going to take Donald Trump to a certain victory. Many of Trump's followers believe him, and they believe sources like QAnon and the COVID 911 insurrection video. They believe that the coronavirus is a phony. They believe that the coronavirus is a tool to pry Donald Trump out of the White House, a tool of a dark, satanic, child-raping deep state. That's why many Trump followers refuse to wear masks. And that's why in Tennessee, the anti-mask wearers mob people who do wear masks and rip their masks off their faces. Wearing masks and staying at home under lockdown, they are convinced, is part of the Democratic Party's plot to take down the one hero capable of saving America, Donald Trump. But there's more. QAnon followers believe that the mask mandates and the lockdown are part of a scheme to get America's citizens used to living under total state control, a scheme to get Americans used to living under a communist dictatorship. But who is the real figure plotting to impose dictatorship on America? For an answer to that, look at who is sending unmarked federal troops into the streets of America's cities to gas and beat protesters. Look at who is claiming that mayors and governors are refusing to protect their citizens from riot, rape, arson, and pillage. Look who is claiming that mayors and governors are not protecting their citizens from violent anarchists running roughshod in the streets. And why are those mayors and governors supposedly incapable of handling a rampage of violence that exists mostly in the imagination of Donald Trump and his faithful followers? Because those mayors and governors are Democrats. Because those mayors and governors are secretly subversives out to Deep Six America. Because they are extremist Democrats determined to tear America apart. Little does Donald Trump seem to realize that the right to gather and protest is in the First Amendment of the American Constitution. Little does he seem to realize that America's two-party system is the oldest party system in the world, and little does he seem to realize that the choice between at least two parties is at the heart of democracy. Donald Trump is a man driven by narcissism, lies, and delusion. He is using his lies and delusions to slowly make America a one-party state. And he has help from conspiracy movements like QAnon and deep-pocket anonymous supporters like the makers of the COVID 911 insurgency video. Remember, Donald Trump's idol is Russia's Vladimir Putin, a man who runs a one-party state, a man whose rival parties are pale farces, a man whose elections are rigged and phony, a man who in reality is a dictator, a man who jails and murders his rivals, a man who intends to be Russia's dictator as long as he lives. Donald Trump also admires China's Xi Jinping, a man who has installed himself as dictator for life, a move to lifetime dictatorship that Donald Trump has said is a great thing. Donald Trump takes phone calls from Turkey's Recep Tayyip Erdogan, another self-installed dictator for life, and Donald Trump is influenced by those calls. Speaking of calls, in the middle of the COVID-19 crisis and is sending troops into the streets of Portland, Washington, and Chicago, who did Donald Trump call on July 23rd? Who did he phone for advice and moral support? Who did he call for the 6th time since March? Vladimir Putin. No wonder that ever so slowly, and step by tiny step, Donald Trump is attempting to make America a dictatorship. But the mystery is why anonymous supporters like QAnon and the makers of the COVID 911 insurrection video are working so hard to help him achieve that goal. This is Howard Bloom speaking to you from the future. It's your job and my job to make. Or, want to know why? Ask how. And now for that sleazy, slimy, silly, seditious, sneaky little off button.